2 children, dense forest, 12,000 hours of searching, 0 answers. Have you ever lost sight of a child for even 30 seconds? That heart-stopping panic when you scan a crowded store, a code playground, even your own backyard, and they're just gone. Your mind immediately jumps to the worst-case scenarios. Your heart pounds. Time seems to freeze. Now imagine that feeling never ending. On May 10th, 2025, that nightmare became reality for a family in Nova Scotia, Canada. But here's what makes this case different from every other missing children story you've heard. The timeline of how it happened doesn't add up. The family's story has more holes than Swiss cheese, and the investigation, well, it's raised more questions than it's answered. What really happened during those missing hours? And more importantly, what can this case teach us about protecting the children we love? I'm your host, and this is True Crime Seat, where we don't just tell the stories, we learn from them. Today's case will challenge everything you think you know about family safety, truth-telling, and the race against time when a child disappears. If this story hits close to home, or if you want to stay informed about cases that matter, hit that subscribe button, because today's case has lessons every parent needs to hear. Let me take you to Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia, a place where the woods hold secrets, and 2 little souls vanished without a trace. Picture this: a small trailer home on Gairloch Road, surrounded by forests so dense that searchers would later describe it as having to literally climb over trees, climb under bushes. This isn't your typical suburban neighborhood. This is rural Nova Scotia, where your nearest neighbor might be hundreds of yards away, and the wilderness begins at your back door. The forest here isn't just thick, it's been made nearly impenetrable by Hurricane Fiona's destruction. Fallen trees create natural barriers. Thick brush forms walls. It's the kind of place where, if you wanted to hide something, nature would be your accomplice. In this isolated setting lived 6-year-old Lilly Sullivan and her 4-year-old brother Jack. Lilly was what her paternal grandmother called her little dream girl, a princess with brown hair and a gap between her teeth that made her smile unforgettable. She was the kind of child who lit up a room, who probably twirled in her pink Barbie shirts and believed in fairy tales. Jack was different, serious, observant. His grandmother described him perfectly. You could tickle him and he would look at you ever so serious, like he was really studying you. Even as a baby, Jack had this sober, thoughtful way about him. Both children were believed to have undiagnosed autism, which meant they typically didn't wander far from home. They lived with their mother, Malaya Brooks Murray, her new partner Daniel Martel, and their baby sibling. It was a blended family trying to make it work in a remote location, far from the watchful eyes of extended family. But here's the thing about isolation: it can protect you, but it can also hide you. On the morning of May 2nd, 2025, Lilly was wearing her pink Barbie top and pink rubber boots with a rainbow design. She carried her strawberry print backpack, the kind of details that would later be broadcast across the country, seared into the minds of everyone hoping to spot these children. Jack wore black Under Armour, jogging pants, and blue rubber boots with dinosaur prints. 4 years old, he was still in pull-up diapers. These weren't just missing children statistics. These were real kids with favorite colors, preferred snacks, bedtime routines, and parents who tucked them in the night before, never imagining it might be the last time. The morning started like any other, but by 10 a.m., everything had changed forever. Here's where this case gets complicated, and where the first red flags start waving. According to the official timeline, Malaya Brooks Murray noticed the children were missing around 9:40 a.m. Daniel Martel, the stepfather, initially claimed he saw or heard the children at 10 a.m. But wait, if the kids were missing at 9:40, how could he have seen them at 10 a.m.? It gets messier. Belinda Martel, Daniel's mother, who lived next door in an RV, later reported that she heard Daniel calling for the kids as early as 8:30 a.m. Let me break this down for you. 8:30 a.m. Neighbor hears Daniel calling for children. 9:40 a.m. Mother claims she noticed they were missing. 10:00 a.m. Stepfather claims he saw them, later disputed. 10:00 a.m. 9:00. Call finally made. Do you see the problem? In a missing children case, every minute matters. Every detail counts. When your timeline doesn't make sense, investigators start asking harder questions. But let's give them the benefit of the doubt for a moment. Maybe in the chaos and panic of realizing your children are gone, details get fuzzy. Maybe trauma makes memory unreliable. The 911 call triggered one of Nova Scotia's largest search operations in recent history. Within hours, over 160 searchers were combing through those hurricane-damaged woods. Helicopters circled overhead. Drones swept the terrain. Specialized search dogs followed scent trails that led nowhere. Ground search and rescue teams came from across the province. They brought underwater recovery teams to search wells, mine shafts, and septic systems. They marked searched areas with orange and pink ribbons, methodically covering every possible location where two small children might be found. Search manager Amy Hansen described the conditions searchers faced. The woods were so thick that teams had to climb over fallen trees and crawl under dense brush. Hurricane Fiona had turned an already challenging forest into an obstacle course. But here's what no one knew at the time, what wouldn't be revealed until weeks later. The last confirmed sighting of Lilly and Jack wasn't on May 2nd at all. This is where everything changes. On May 28, 2025, nearly a month after the children disappeared, RCMP made a devastating announcement. The last confirmed sighting of Lilly and Jack wasn't on the morning they were reported missing. It was the day before. Surveillance footage from New Glasgow showed Daniel Martel, Malaya Brooks-Murray, their baby, and both children together on the afternoon of May 1st. This was the last time anyone could prove, with visual evidence, that Lilly and Jack were alive. Think about what this means. There's no visual confirmation that these children were ever at that trailer home on May 2nd. No proof they were there when the family says they were. No evidence they were alive when that 911 call was made. The investigation began revealing more troubling decisions. No Amber Alert was issued. Despite two very young children going missing under suspicious circumstances, no alert went out to the public. Those critical early hours when community awareness could have made the difference passed in silence. The forensic investigation was delayed. It wasn't until 3 weeks after the children were reported missing that law enforcement was seen inspecting underneath the trailer home. Videos showed officers using flashlights, removing newly constructed steps to access the crawl space. 3 weeks. In a missing children case, evidence can disappear in 3 hours, let alone 3 weeks. The search was scaled back after just 5 days. Staff Sergeant Curtis McKinnon made the difficult announcement that there had been no confirmed sightings, and it was unlikely the children were still alive in the wilderness. 5 days for children who allegedly wandered into the woods. 5 days seems premature. But perhaps the most telling moment came during the polygraph examination of Daniel Martel, the stepfather. Picture this. You're sitting in an interrogation room, hooked up to a polygraph machine. You're extremely nervous, as Martel later described it. Your stress level is astronomically through the roof. And the first question they ask you is, did you kill Lilly and Jack? Not do you know where they are? Not did you see them leave? The very first question assumes these children are dead, and you're responsible. Martel described how every question during the polygraph assumed the children were no longer alive. Are you an accessory to the murder of Lilly and Jack? None of the questions assumed the children had been taken or were still alive. He passed the test. The investigator told him immediately, "You did a good job. You passed." But here's what's interesting. While Martel was one of 54 people formally interviewed, questions remain about who else received polygraph tests. The children's paternal grandmother, Belinda Gray, confirmed she and her son Cody Sullivan were interviewed, but they weren't asked to take polygraph tests. This case shows how quickly everything can change, and how every decision in those first hours matters. If you're learning something new about how these investigations work, hit that like button, and let me know in the comments. Have you ever experienced a situation where time was absolutely critical to understand what happened to Lilly and Jack? We need to understand the family they came from, because this isn't just a story about two missing children. It's a story about fractured relationships, custody battles, and the way family secrets can leave children vulnerable. Cody Sullivan, the children's biological father, had been out of their lives for approximately 3 years. This wasn't a case of an absent father who never cared, according to his mother, Belinda Gray. Cody had been in a relationship with Malaya Brooks-Murray for about 3 years. Gray described them as the picture-perfect family. but perfection is often an illusion. When Brooks Murray petitioned for sole custody, Cody made a choice that would haunt this case. He walked away completely, not just from the relationship, from his children. Belinda Gray tried to maintain her relationship with her grandchildren. Any time we wanted to see the kids, she'd come by for a visit. She'd bring them by all the time, Gray recalled. Malia was accommodating, understanding that children need their extended family. But when Brooks Murray moved in with Daniel Martell in the remote Lansdowne station location, something changed. Contact ceased. Gray last saw Lilly and Jack nearly 2 years before their disappearance. Think about that. These children went from having a grandmother who described Lilly as her little dream girl, to having no contact with that side of their family for 2 years. They were isolated, not just geographically, but emotionally. Gray's descriptions of the children are heartbreaking in their specificity. She loved that Lilly had the brown hair and she had a space between her teeth, which I had when I was a kid. She was our little princess. And Jack, serious, contemplative Jack. You could tickle him and he would look at you ever so serious, like he was really studying you. She characterized him as sober and serious, even as a baby. According to Daniel Martell, both children had undiagnosed autism and typically didn't stray far from home. This detail is crucial. It makes their supposed wandering into dense, dangerous woods even more unlikely. The only physical evidence found during the massive search was a fragment of Lilly's blanket, discovered on the first day. Daniel Martell confirmed this was indeed from Lilly's blanket, but he's also made cryptic statements about the investigation. There is more evidence than what the public knows. What evidence? What aren't they telling us? The family structure, with its custody battles, geographical isolation, and severed connections, created a perfect storm. When children are cut off from their support systems, when families fracture without healing, when secrets replace communication, that's when vulnerable children become even more vulnerable. Daniel Martell, thrust into this nightmare scenario, would later describe the impact. My life has been ripped apart in 1,000 pieces, and 6 weeks after, the pieces are still laying on the floor. But sometimes when lives are ripped apart, it's because they were barely held together in the first place. The search for Lilly and Jack Sullivan became something extraordinary, a testament to human compassion and the power of community mobilization. But it also became a study in the heartbreaking reality of when hope meets impossibility. Over 12,000 hours of search effort. Let that number sink in. If you worked a full-time job, that would be nearly 6 years of work, concentrated into days and weeks, spread across 60 Hull searchers who combed through some of the most challenging terrain in Nova Scotia. The searchers marked areas with orange and pink ribbons, a colorful trail of hope threading through the dark forest. Each ribbon represented hours of crawling through brush, climbing over hurricane-damaged trees, calling out the names of 2 children who never answered back. Amy Hansen, the search manager, painted a vivid picture of the conditions. Literally had to climb over trees, climb under bushes. This wasn't a search through open fields or suburban neighborhoods. This was a battle against nature itself, made worse by Hurricane Fiona's destruction. Helicopters and fixed-wing aircraft swept the area from above. Drones provided eyes in places humans couldn't reach. Specialized search dogs followed scent trails that led nowhere. Underwater recovery teams searched every well, mineshaft and septic system in the area. The community response was immediate and overwhelming. Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston released a statement, "People in Pictou County and across Nova Scotia are praying for a positive outcome for 2 missing children. During this time of worry, please know that our first responders and volunteers are working tirelessly during this 24/7 operation." But on May 7th, just 5 days after the children were reported missing, the inevitable happened. Staff Sergeant Curtis McKinnon made the difficult announcement that the search would be scaled back. There had been no confirmed sightings. It was unlikely the children were still alive in the wilderness. The decision was controversial. Some community members questioned whether 5 days was enough. Others understood the reality. If 2 small children had wandered into those woods, 5 days in the elements would likely be fatal. Subsequent targeted searches continued on May 8th, 9th, 17th, 18th, and during the weekend of May 31st, June 1st. each one more desperate than the last, each one yielding nothing. The case attracted international attention. Social media exploded with theories, accusations, and speculation. Daniel Martel noted that the ordeal had attracted attention from people around the world. But here's the double-edged sword of public interest. The same attention that can help solve cases can also destroy lives. The intense scrutiny, the online speculation, the court of public opinion, it all took its toll on everyone involved. The community's response revealed both the best and worst of human nature. The best, hundreds of volunteers dedicating their time and energy to finding 2 missing children. The worst, armchair detectives on social media pointing fingers without evidence, creating noise that can actually hinder real investigations. Cases like this show the incredible power of community, but also its limits. Share this video if you think more people need to hear about Lilly and Jack's story, because sometimes the most important thing we can do is simply not forget. On June 19, 2025, something significant happened. The province of Nova Scotia announced a reward of up to $150,000 for information about Lilly and Jack's disappearance. The case was added to the Major Unsolved Crimes Program, a designation usually reserved for the most serious criminal cases. Justice Minister Becky Drouhin explained that RCMP specifically requested the case be added to the rewards program. The program does consider and have the opportunity to include cases that relate to missing persons, so it very much fits within those parameters. But here's what makes this reward particularly significant. The Major Unsolved Crimes Program currently includes 222 unsolved cases. And since 2006, there have only been 6 payouts. 6. In nearly 2 decades. This tells us 2 things. First, that authorities believe someone out there has information worth $150,000. Second, that getting people to come forward with case-breaking information is extraordinarily difficult. Criminal expert Jim Hoskins, a retired Halifax regional police officer, provided crucial insight into the investigation's direction. He noted that the RCMP's statement about no evidence of abduction was significant. They gave a clue and they said no abduction. That's a big statement to make at this early in the game. Think about what no evidence of abduction means. It suggests that investigators don't believe strangers took these children. It points the focus inward toward the family, the home, the people who had access to Lilly and Jack. Hoskins also suggested that the investigation had likely evolved. If you can't find them, somebody has to say, enough is enough right now for searching those areas. So now we move to where there's only one other option, a nefarious take to this. In other words, a criminal type thing. The investigation now involves multiple national agencies: Royal Canadian Mounted Police Major Crime Unit, Integrated Homicide Investigation Team, National Centre for Missing Persons, Canadian Centre for Child Protection. RCMP have received and are following up on more than 355 tips related to the case. They've interviewed more than 50 people, with additional interviews planned. But despite all the resources, all the tips, all the interviews, Lilly and Jack remain missing. Their fate unknown. Their family still waiting for answers that may never come. The reward can be claimed by calling 1-888-710-9090, or information can be shared anonymously through Crime Stoppers of Nova Scotia at 1-800-222-TIPS. Those seeking to claim the reward must provide their name and contact information, and may be called to testify in court. Somewhere out there, someone knows what happened to these children. Someone has information worth $150,000. The question is, will they find the courage to come forward? As we reach the end of Lilly and Jack's story, though their story isn't truly over, it's time to ask the hard questions. What can we learn from this case? How can these children's disappearance make other children safer? Lessons 1. Time is everything. The first 24 to 48 hours in a missing child case are absolutely critical. Every minute matters. Every decision counts. In this case, the delayed reporting, the timeline inconsistencies, and the failure to issue an Amber Alert all represent missed opportunities that can never be recovered. If you're a parent, make sure your family has a plan. Make sure everyone knows what to do if a child goes missing. Don't assume it won't happen to you. Be prepared for the unthinkable. Lessons 2. Truth matters more than comfort. The inconsistent timeline in this case created doubt that still haunts the investigation. When children are missing, being comfortable with your story is less important than being truthful. Investigators can work with difficult truths, but they can't work with lies. Lessons N3. Family stability is child safety. The fractured family dynamics, the custody battles, the geographical and emotional isolation. All of these factors contributed to making Lilly and Jack more vulnerable. Children need stable, connected support systems. When family relationships break down, children often pay the price. Lessons N4. Community vigilance saves lives. The response to this case showed the incredible power of community mobilization, but it also showed how that power needs to be channeled effectively. Social media speculation can hurt more than it helps. Real community vigilance means being aware, being prepared, and being responsible with information. Lessons N5. Technology is double-edged. The surveillance footage that provided the last confirmed sighting of the children was crucial evidence. But the social media frenzy that followed may have hindered the investigation. Technology can be our greatest tool and our greatest obstacle. Lessons N6. Never give up hope. Some cases take years to solve. Some families wait decades for answers. The reward in this case, the ongoing investigation, the continued public interest, all of these represent hope that someday, somehow, the truth will emerge. Let me ask you some personal questions. Do you know where your children are right now? Not just physically, but emotionally. Have you had those important safety conversations? Is your family communication clear and honest? Are there secrets or tensions that could put your children at risk? Have you prepared your children for emergencies? Do they know their full names, your phone number, your address? Do they know what to do if they get separated from you? Have you considered how your family relationships affect your children's safety? Are there people in your children's lives who should have more contact? Are there people who should have less? These aren't comfortable questions, but comfort isn't the goal here, safety is. Lilly and Jack Sullivan are still out there somewhere, and their story isn't over. If you have any information about this case, please contact Nova Scotia Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS. You could be the key to bringing these children home. Subscribe to True Crime Seat to stay updated on cases that matter, and remember, every child deserves to come home safely. Every family deserves answers. Every community has a role to play in protecting the most vulnerable among us. The woods of Lansdowne Station still hold their secrets, but secrets have a way of coming to light, especially when people refuse to stop looking for the truth. Sometimes the most important stories are the ones without endings, because they remind us that our vigilance, our care, and our hope can make all the difference. The search for Lilly and Jack continues, and it will continue until they come home. Until next time, this is True Crime Seat, where we don't just tell the stories, we learn from them. Stay safe out there.